Hello, people. This is Alejandra. We're in week 5. We're working this week, this is Math 116, and we're working with our second class on tweens. This time we're working on classic tweens and motion tweens. And those are tweens that require symbols. So we're going to be going over symbols and then how exactly do you build a classic tween? How do you build a motion tween? And how do you work with basic easing? We're going to have almost 3 weeks to catch up in depth with what is easing in animation. It's very important in computer animation. And we're going to take it easy. If you guys like it a lot and from the very beginning can go through full depth, perfect. But I'm only requiring in the assignment that you do, little by little. So I was talking here with the students that have showed up. I know that I gave you the link this morning. And with our tutor, that is John Dang. And we're trying to set a time where we can have an extra Zoom meeting that is led by the tutor, where people can go get help. And I've already told the students before that I was able to correct assignment 4. I'm very happy. I'm being able so far to correct by the week. That is very unusual. Maybe because we're stuck at home and there's nothing else to do. And I can be all day correcting. So, so students are doing good, but we can see that in the future, as the class gets a little bit more technical, students might be having problems. So we think that the meeting with John is going to be Friday, and it's going to be possible, you should make an appointment with him, and possible between 10:30 and 12 finishing. And he cannot be the 2.5 hours waiting for people. So we actually need to have a defined time frame. But to begin with, we're going to give that window of opportunity. We're generous here. And then I was saying that people might not show up, might not understand that having a short meeting with the tutor means they can do better in the assignment and they can work less because they can get what is the problem from the very beginning. So I want to encourage you all, when you see that your grade has come up from your assignment, you still need to go there and click on the little grading table that you're not going to see it by default. On the side of this assignment, there's your grade. And on the side, there's going to be like a tiny little thing that looks almost like a checkboard. You click on there and you see the grading table. And then you see the disclosing of the grade. I have tables that are breaking down things. I am paying special attention to a story and timing. That are the 2 things where you're learning. Not so much to technical stuff. I give technical constrictions to check who's paying attention to the instructions and who's not. And so far, people are doing pretty good. They're following technical indications. So what I'm thinking that I'm going to do, if I see a student that is struggling on something fundamental in the assignment, I'm gonna say in the grading table, or maybe sometimes I make comments underneath the grading table. So it's important that you also look at comments. So an assignment is something that you need to go back and see how I have reviewed that assignment. Sometimes I'm giving tips on doing things, or when something is good, I'm emphasizing and say this part is really good. So please go back and check them back. And from now on, I might be telling you in the grading table in the comment, hey, it would be a good idea that you check with the tutor. If the error is important and it's something that I see that is gonna compromise your work next week, I might take points in the assignment and say, those 5 points are retained. You're gonna go talk to the tutor, you're gonna have a meeting, you're gonna cover this issue. And then when that tutoring session has happened, John can tell me very easily, then I come back and I review the grade. I'm doing that because some people are shy. They're busy, they're doing something. They say, why am I going to show up here for a meeting? And then not having that little remedial meeting makes their progress in the class very complicated, very, like you're struggling with something that you shouldn't be struggling. So that's what we're planning. Meetings are gonna happen on Friday, 10:30 to 12. You have John Dan's email when you go in Canvas to email me or email somebody. His name is gonna be there because he's added to the class, and I probably would say John Dan and tutor. And if that is not enough, John, why don't you make a post on week 5? And if you don't mind, you give them your pipeline email also, if you want. Do you mind? John, do something else.
I can do that.
Some people get very confused. Like I ask students to email something in Canvas, and there's students that don't know how to email in Canvas. So that's where I'm scared. I say, email in Canvas, and they're like, I don't even know how to do that. But everybody understands the emailing pipeline.
Uh-huh.
So let's see if we get appointments. I think that this week, John, why don't you, how are you going to be giving the Zoom? Okay, in the discussion.
I'll probably announce it the same way you probably announce it.
You want to make an announcement? I don't mind that you make an announcement, but you could also do it in discussion. The problem is if people are not reading discussions, how are they going to know? Let's announcement. If you want, you make an announcement and you say, this week we're testing the tutoring. This is my email for if you want to make an appointment. What do you want to do? Do you want to create? The easiest thing would be that you give them your permanent number. Do you have a permanent Zoom number? Because then you don't have to be creating new ones.
I don't quite know. I'll have to see.
Okay, so send me an email and tell me if you see it or not, because we might have to contact the LRC and say, the tutor needs to have also an account where he can have a permanent number. That would be ideal, because then you don't even have to think. You turn it on and you know which is the number that they're going to. We're gonna email you and me and figure that one out. Okay. And I'm gonna have to do the same thing with Jacob that is doing the 2D animation class. Okay. So we're saying this at the beginning. So if you're watching this video later when it's recording, you have an idea that the tutor is going to be available and there's going to be a special Zoom session with the tutor. The session should be no longer than 15 minutes, unless if there's an exception and a technical problem that is bigger. And John, remember to keep track, to write down who are the people that have showed up in to the session. Okay. Because at a certain point, I might need those names. I may say, who showed up to see, how do I reevaluate assignments? I'm not very happy about having to reevaluate assignments with all the things that I'm doing, but it might be the only way that I get people to show up. Okay, so I'm gonna pin myself so we can see a little bit of an interface. Let me do it like that. Yes, I'm here. Here we have the interface. And we're going to be working on shape tweens and classic tweens. I have already opened our sample assignment. That is, let me put it at the very beginning. I also have some good assignments from next week. They were not, Alejandra, don't close it. They were very, very good assignments last week. Some of them spectacular. So I'm going to put those two, the first ones. And this is, disarranging. Okay, this is my classic tweens. This is my new assignment. And this, where's the one? This needs to come here. Bing, all displaying. So we're going to look at the test file later. In order, so last week we worked with shape tweens. And shape tweens are very, very peculiar type of tween. That is like a morph, and it doesn't require, you have to be working on your keyframes, on your in and out keyframes. You have to be working with a raw shape. You could make shape tween something that has been working in object drawing mode, but definitely you need to see the points. But now we're working with a different premise. We're working with an object that has to be one object that needs to be saved as a symbol. And then in the in keyframe and in the out keyframe, you need to have the same object. So it's gonna be, let me have a ball, and this ball is moving from one side to the other of the screen. Or this ball is big and is becoming small, or is rotating, Or I could even stretch and squash a little bit by using the transform tool in a different way. I could also skew, but you cannot deform anymore, because when something is protected as a symbol, the software is not seeing the points anymore. So deformation is not possible. Now we have to be modifying properties of that symbol in a very structured way. So I think that explained a little bit symbols on week 3, but let's go over again. So I have yellow color fill, black outline. I'm gonna take these and I'm gonna make a square. And I'm holding shift, so it's a perfect square. And I'm gonna select it. Remember, select, either you draw a rectangle around or you double click, so everything gets selected. And then when you have that, you want to convert to symbol. There are two ways. Either you do right click and you see down there, convert to symbol, or you can click on the F8 key, that is the shortcut. If you're in a laptop, remember that you have to hold the function key. By now, you know your computer. You know if there's some things in the system that are being mapped to all those F keys that are in the very, very, very top. If there's something that wants to come up when you press the key, like for example, let me convert to symbol for a second. It's gonna be a graphic, that's very important, and I'm gonna call it square. So if I click on F8 by default, what it's trying to do, or let me do a F6 by default. And I say, oh, you must want lighting. You must want to change the lighting. And that's it, because my F6 in my laptop is mapped to lighting. So in order to bypass that, I need to hold the function key and then the shortcut. Okay, many of you know. Now it's important we look at that little belly button circle. That is the center of the symbol. And if I have a raw shape, let me make another raw shape. Yeah, I have a raw shape. Notice that there's no center. Okay? But when I have a symbol, I do have a center. And we need to remember that little circle because it's going to be important later. Now, I cannot change the center. The center is in the center. If I double click on my symbol, let's talk a little bit about symbols. Espera, let me not go in advance of myself. Because I converted to a symbol, my symbol is here. This is the icon of a graphic symbol. When you're converting to symbol, let me convert to symbol something else, so I have to. So I'm going to be making a circle. Here's my circle. Let's make it an ellipse, because then we'll see things better. So here's my ellipse, and I selected, and this time I'm going to do it with F5. Function, you go F5. Function F8, sorry. And it's convert to symbol. And there's 3 possibilities. I can be making a button symbol, a movie clip symbol, of a graphic symbol. The one you want is the third of them. You want the graphic. You don't want to use any of the other, okay? So I'm going to see a graphic symbol. And as you see, my current registration is in the center. That's why that belly button is showing up in the center. If I say that I want my registration up there on a corner, let's see what happens. So yes, save this in the library and it shows up in the library. Oh, mira. Okay. So the registration, do you see that little cross? The registration is up there because I say I want to register there, but the center is still here. And now in this one, I have the registration in the middle and the belly button in the middle. So what is the registration? The registration is going to be very important for action scripting. When we're coding and we're invoking an element, the element will always be pulled by the registration place. But this little thing is the axis of rotation. So if I take these, right now it's rotating against the center, okay? Command C. But meanwhile I have the transform tool selected, I can change the registration mode. So if I put it here, when I scale, it would scale depending on that element. And if I want to rotate a line to here, so it's your center of rotation and your center of scale, okay? And by default it's in the middle, but as you're working, you can move it to other place. So I can say, you know, I want to put it here, and I want to put it here. So it can be changed. It's like a little compass. You're deciding where do you want it. So I'm gonna delete this guy because I only want one element. And we're gonna call this classic tween. Remember that it's important that you name layers. I still have people that are lazy naming layers. When you work with a production team and your files are going from one person to another, if you don't put names, how is the other person gonna understand what's happening in your file? So right now you're working by yourself and your only teammate is me. So I'm getting your file and I wanna see layers. But later in life, you're gonna be working in projects and you're gonna be working with other workers that are gonna be really pissed off if they have to spend extra time trying to understand how you have structure. In teams, sometimes they even convey, so the layer where we have this is gonna be called like that. And you need to be respecting that naming to be able to work with others. Okay, so I have here my first keyframe. This is gonna be my in keyframe for the tween. And then I'm gonna say, in frame 30, I'm gonna be making a keyframe. So in my case, function F6. I have another keyframe and now I move my element to wherever I want it. That is gonna be here. And I'm gonna give it a little bit of rotation. I want like a diamond. So there's movement and rotation. Only one symbol on the layer. Then I right click on the first keyframe and I say, give me a classic tween. That is the first of all your options, okay? So I get a classic tween, and as we see, a classic tween is purple. It used to be, where's the color of the classic tween? I think it used to be kind of turquoise, but now it's purple. Let's remember the purple. And now in between my in and my out keyframe, what I'm gonna have is an interpolation of the movement between one and the other. I'm gonna turn on the onion skin. So you can see it's going from the first one that is here and it's doing the rotation, it's doing the movement little by little and the rotation little by little. It's doing both properties, position and rotation, are interpolating at the same time and at constant speed, little by little. So if I had less, let me take this out. So my real movement is not what I'm seeing there. Take it out. My real movement is this. Very uniform. Kind of a slow motion. So really, like if I'm working at 15 frames per second, 2 seconds to move an element, that's excessive. So I'm going to select all the frames and I'm going to do Shift F5, so it's a little bit shorter. And I'm going to play it again. This makes more sense. But still, the animation is a little bit boring. To the other place. So what we're getting, remember that the metaphor was, you are the senior animator. You are saying, what's the object? It has to be a simple object, a symbol. And you're saying this symbol is going to be doing this type of transformation. And then the software is your junior animator, and it's creating the in-betweens. And it's so good that the in-betweens are perfect. And it makes one in-between drawing per frame. That's why computer animation is so soft and smooth compared to handmade animation. So what you're not going to have to do anymore, because you're not going to be drawing in betweens. When we were doing frame by frame, it was like drawing. And you're going to save that. But now you're going to have to break your artwork into simple shapes that can go from one place to the other. So for example, let me do a little thing. Let's imagine that I'm going to take this animation, select it all. I'm going to right click and say, copy frames. This is not copy paste. This is copy frames, copy animation. I'm going to make another layer. Click on the first, paste frames. And I get the same animation plus some extra frames. So I recognize. So here you have the same one. So maybe in this one, this guy is going to be here. And by the time we get here, it's going to be here. So you're breaking, oh, that's exactly the same. No. We want something that is a little bit more spicy. What if I put it here? Let's see what happens. I don't think I have snap to objects because it doesn't want to the corner and it should want to do it. So let me see. Yeah, how snap to objects. Then why are you doing that? Well, let's put also a line. Okay. So if you wanted something, now, right now I have circles. So I really see that it's two shapes, but these circles, I have the outline, but you know, I might realize that I don't want to work with an outline. Okay, so there we have animation. You have to break the artwork in whatever you want to do. Maybe you don't want to break it. Maybe what you want is only that object. And you have an in and you have an out. That's what I like, that you have an object that I want to move this. And then immediately you can put the other keyframe and say, where do you want it? And it will do that transformation. Now, next point about symbols. The mother recipe for my symbol is living in my library down here, isn't it? And what I have here is a copy of my mother element that is living in the library. So if I go to the library and I modify what I have in the library, those that are clones, they're children of the mother element, would modify also. So if I go inside a square, not to the name because it thinks that I'm trying to rename it, but if I double click in the icon, so now I am inside the square symbol. And I say, you know what, the idea of having an outline was not so good. I want it without an outline. And since we want to do something different, so you remember, let me make another square, but this time I don't want line. So I'm going to go to the line colors and see with no line. And I don't want to fill color the black. I don't know how that happened, but that's not what I wanted. I want my earthy color. It's called burnt sienna. And I'm going to make here a little square. I don't know if I've aligned it very good. I could work in another layer and align it perfect, but I'm trying to cut corners. So I'm inside a square and I've modified square. So when I go back to the stage, I have two copies of square. They're going to change also. Okay, so let's see our animation now. Oh, more interesting. There's no line, so it's more like, oh, what's happening there? Okay, so here I have my animation. So I'm working with a symbol. A symbol is something that allows you to have your perfect element living in the library and to create copies of that element. And then when you change the mother, you change the children. Is definitely the parent and the child. I'm not making it up. Well, I put it in female gender because it's more interesting to me. So let me put this a little bit higher so I see the names of the files, but we have a little bit more space here. Something else that you can do to symbols. You can take a symbol, here is my symbol, and you can go to, let's take out tweening. I'm gonna have to select this symbol. Okay, don't worry. Select the one on top is this one. Or select the keyframe. No, then it gives me tweening. Select the guy here. So I'm selecting the symbol on stage, and here I get color effects. So you can change, try to think, you have a cookie, and we're gonna be dipping it in chocolate sauce, or dipping it in a strawberry sauce, or dipping it in orange sauce, but the real cookie is underneath, isn't it? So we're gonna take this cookie, this lovely thing, and we're gonna say, we're gonna be tinting you today in, no, tint. I better begin saving. I don't want all the way in green. That doesn't sound like a good idea. I'm going to be tinting maybe in a bright orange and not all the way. I'm going to be tinting a little bit. Okay? So I can dip it a little bit. And I've dipped this one, but not that one. So that means it's going to transition my color effect. Okay? Now, this can also be used to I can change the alpha and I can make things look like they're disappearing. So I'm going to the one underneath, that is this one. I'm going to leave it the way it is there. But at the end, that is over here, I'm going to select my keyframe. Here I have the color effects again down. We have such a small screen. And I'm going to say, okay, the color effect that I want right now is alpha. Alpha is transparency. So I want alpha, and I want alpha all the way down. Now beware, because when you have all the way down, it's difficult to select things. I mean, you could still select the outline, but so what is going to happen is that this one is going to disappear. So if you want to create like a fade in, something is appearing on stage, or a fade out, something is disappearing from stage. The easiest way, the more effective way, is you make that element as a symbol, and then you apply a classic tween. And you have it in the in, however you want it, in the out, with the alpha in a different way, and it's interpolating that transition. So that's another lovely thing that we can do. Okay, more things. Let me keep on saying. So I can take this one is rotating a tiny bit, isn't it? It's ending there and it's disappearing. Let me for a second change the disappearing, because if not, we're not gonna see half the stuff. Selected, color effects are down here, and we're gonna leave it only semi-transparent, so we're still seeing it. It's doing this one, this operation. But I could still go to rotation and say, I know that I have a keyframe that is in this orientation and another one that is like that. But what if in the middle I want a complete revolution? And it just ends like a diamond. So then I can say, I want to rotate. And I want to rotate clockwise or counterwise. Clockwise, counterwise. I'm going to rotate clockwise. And I'm going to rotate one revolution. I like that. So let's look at this. So now it knows that it needs to begin like that as a square, needs to end as a diamond, but I've assigned it to do one complete revolution of rotating in the meantime. Okay, so remember again how we did it. We selected the guy, we selected the tween, and then in this area that is the tweening area, you have, here is rotation. Okay, so now I'm gonna hide this one and show the one on top that was doing just this. And let me put again so I want you to see that it's doing it in a uniform way. It's exactly advancing the same amount on each frame. So what you get is a continuous, a constant motion. Isn't it cool when you have the on your screen? It's kind of sad that we cannot have this thing going on, but this is only for testing. So I have my perfect movement. Now, I'm gonna copy this guy. I'm gonna leave it with less frames. So if not, we're gonna go, out in the woods. So Shift F5 to delete those. And I'm gonna call this Classic Tween 2. Saving file. I'm gonna select this lovely guy again. I am gonna right click, copy frames, make another layer. I click again, paste frames. And this one is going to be good. Notice that when I copy paste, even the name of the layer gets copied. So now I'm going to call it 3. And I'm going to leave this exact same animation, but I'm going to change the easing. The easing is I'm going to change the speed. Instead of going step by step, now I'm going to make it maybe quicker at the beginning or quicker at the end. And now we come into the theory of eases. You know that I'm a little bit dyslexic. So things that are opposite are a big problem for me. And it took me, until I didn't build a story in my head of what was an ease, I didn't get it. So try to think that we have two options. We can do easing out. That means that you're going to take it easy at the end. So that means you're going to be slowing at the end. If you slow at the end, you're accelerating at the very beginning. So let's look at the difference. I'm going to leave this guy. I don't like his color. Orange. Venga. I'm going to leave it in the outline. They're beginning both at the same time because I have two that are on top of each other. The one underneath, Classic Tween 2, is going at a constant speed. The one on top is easing out. So since it's easing out, it's beginning way faster. It's already ahead. But then it's getting lazy, and the other one even catches up with it. So this is what we call an ease out. And if I take the visibility of that one off and let this one and put it on your skin, you're going to see that it begins very fast. Look with a little overlapping on the first. And then it goes slower, 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 until at the end, look what is happening. Way slower than the other one ever went. Let me take this one out and see this one. You see, this one is always at the same interval and always more or less the same overlapping. Now, the one that has the ease begins faster and slower. that is ease out. Now, for a second, I'm going to take this same guy, and instead of having an ease out, notice that I'm doing it, I'm not getting here, because here I have more options. I'm doing it here in the slider. So now I'm going to go, instead of 100, I'm going to go all the way to minus 100. And say, oh, what you want is an ease in. What is an ease in? We're going to take it easy at the very beginning. So we're going to go slower at the very beginning. But then, since we have a certain duration, by frame, what frame is this? By frame 18, I have to be in a certain place. Then if I go easy at the very beginning, I'm going to have to run at the end. So what we have here, before was a deceleration, now it's an acceleration. Sorry, I think I said it worse before, because we're going to begin lower and then it's going to catch up. Let me do it playing. Okay. Now let's look at with onion skin. Here we have an onion skin. It begins like ooh, 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 and then whoa, I have to be somewhere. So I'm catching up really, really quick. So for this week, I want you to be able to play with this slider. Now, you don't have to go all the way to minus 100. We could have left here like minus 42, and then you'll have a little bit of effect, a little bit of slower at the beginning, and a little bit quicker at the end, but not so extreme, okay? So this is level 1 of easing, what you need to know by this week. Now, if you are an adventurous person and you wanted to take it further, let me take this out. Notice that when I select my tween, I think that you can also select in the middle. I always select the in keyframe, but you actually can select in the middle, because what you're selecting is the tween, not the keyframe. You could say, hey, what if I want something slightly different? And look at this. So I have a classic ease in, and it's telling me when I have no ease, my movement is a diagonal, because I'm changing little by little in the same proportion. Try to think that this is the amount of frames that you have, and this is the percentage of the transformation. So if I'm going constant at 50% of the transformation, I'm 50% on my way, isn't it? And if I do everything at the end, I have to be there, because that's the end of time and the end of transformation. And at the very beginning, I have to be in 0, because I haven't begun transformation, and I'm at the beginning of the transition. So this is what we call a speed curve. And when the movement is constant, there's no curve, there's only a diagonal. Now I want you to see what happens when you have a classic ease. So the classic ease that I defined, that remember was minus 40, it's a little bit of curve. But I could go for more. I could go more. Those are different functions that create different curves. We're beginning to link speed and mathematics. You don't need to know about mathematics. They give them already. So if I use a quadratic function, what I get is this speed. And as you see, we're slowing out way more. Let me double click. So it selects, and you can see it. Whoa. And let's look at it resembles the one that I did at the very, that I did before, but it's a little bit more extreme. Now, more options. Remember, this is not mandatory for this week. If I do cubic will be even. If I do chord, now, the moment that I have something like that, if by 50%, I'm still in 10% of the transformation, how slow am I going? So let me double click on this one to choose it. Let me show it to you. Do you see how long it was there? Like, hello, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but now I'm gonna wake up. Wow. Okay, so those are speed curves. You're going from one point to the other, but with what changes of speed, okay? So this is gonna be something that we're gonna do next week, but I want you to know that it's there, Here you have quint, that is even more important. Here you have sine, that is less, back, that's very interesting, circ, bounce, that means that it's doing and undoing. Let me for a second to bounce so you see it. So whatever it's doing is like, oh no, coming back and forth. Okay, so if you want to be a professional animator, you need to be good at understanding function curves, speed curves. That is, I would say 30% of your job, working with speed curves. See where's elastic, little bounce there. So I want you to begin understanding the relation between this representation and what is happening in time. I mean, if you want to play with those, you can play, but you don't need to fully understand it until next week. This week, I'm happy that you just can move here the slider and can create subtle changes of speed, okay? So I will explain it again next week, and if you're having problems with those, there are things that you're not understanding, hold it so you can ask me next week, where we will be going more in depth. And then we're not gonna do it, but notice that when I'm selecting my tween, here there's something here, say, do you wanna ease all the properties together or do you wanna separate them? Like, what if I wanna move fast and rotate only at the end? Then I need two curves. Maybe I want to go constant in the movement, it's going, but the rotation is happening later. So if I separate the curves, let me do it just for a second. I say, you know, property separate. Then it tells me, okay, this is for position, this is for rotation, this is for scale, this is for color, this is for filters. We're not applying filters because we're working with graphic symbols, and only movie clip symbols can have filters, and we don't want to work with movie clip symbols. Please don't put movie clip symbols because there are a whole bunch of other problems additional. We're not going to be doing symbols until movie clip symbols until week 8. Okay, so we'll still have a little bit of time. I don't want to work with this, just for you to know that that thing is there. Everything together. We're just working at that level, and we're doing simple things, or maybe very simple looking at that. Okay. So we have classic tweens. Now, when you're creating your assignment, I'm still asking for a story. I don't want a square moving from one side to the other. It's like, yeah, okay, great, what is that? That is your test that you're doing when you're doing your famous 3 hours of lab time a week. So you're supposed to have 3 hours of lab time a week, 2 to 5 hours working in homework. That is how much we work in those classes. So when you test, you're gonna test, you know, move one element around. But when you're creating the assignment, you're going to create a little story. So you're going to have layers underneath that have, you know, maybe they have no movement. You're going to be, maybe you have a section that what you need is frame by frame. That is fine. Maybe you want to put one shape tween because you have a transformation, you know, that is very important, that works as a transformation, or the famous thing of you have a gradient that you want to change to give like an atmospheric change. But what I'm really grading, the technical aspect of this assignment is, can you create classic tweens with eases? That is what I'm requiring, okay? So first part is covered. To me, this is the type of symbol tween that Adobe Flash, even Macromedia Flash created the first time. It's the original tween. But through time, Adobe, trying new things and messing around, created a new type of tween with a symbol. And this new type had the advantage that it was similar to tweens in Adobe After Effects. I don't know if you guys have heard about that program. It's pretty important. So Adobe After Effects is a program that is somehow similar to this one because it's also a compositing program. You can be working with things on different layers, and you can bring an image behind, and then you can put things on top. You can create animation. You can bring image sequences. Image sequences like you're bringing maybe a bitmap, a collection of images that are bitmaps that go one after the other, like a stop motion. I think that we talked about it in week 3, and I don't see people doing that. I don't see people bringing bitmap images like JPEGs or PNGs as a background. I don't see people doing any type of animation on the side. It requires a little bit more of technical level, and I don't know if you guys have that technical level. So that's why I'm not, you know, like, no, if you want to do those experiments, maybe the 2D animation class that you can take next fall would be the right place for experimenting a little bit more. But if you really want to photograph something like clack, 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 like a sequence of 6 images, meanwhile they have the same name and the same number, you could call the first one to the stage and it will tell you this appears to be an animated sequence. And then all the rest would take place by themselves in consecutive keyframes. So it's very easy to bring an animation sequence. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, technically I require to work with Classic Tweens, but you can be incorporating techniques that we have been working in the past or new experiments that you're trying to bring. Because remember that at the end of the day, the goal of those assignments is not that I tortured you and you have to follow whatever I say. That's not. Is that I put you in a place where you make pieces that are going to become portfolio pieces that you can use when you're trying to get in an art school or animation school or a graphic design school, when you're trying to get into another school and they might say, we want a portfolio. What have you done before? Or for employment, you're saying, hey, I want to work in this animation. And then the employer would say, what have you done before? And you'll have to show pieces that you have done before. And we have an advantage over other fields. You do history and you go out and you try to get a job and you have no previous working experience, but you're working in this field and your assignments, your portfolio pieces are working experience, because you could have done them for me in my class, or you could have done them for a client. So actually people that get out in our area, they don't get out at level 0. They get out at, depending on how much they have worked and what nice pieces they have put together, they're already employable. But all depends on how much energy and creativity they have put when they were working here in class assignments. You understand? That's why class assignments require time and require creative juices and require a level of achievement, because that is your passport to be able to get into a good school, to be able to get into a good job, to be able to demonstrate as a freelance that you can do things. That is what shows what you can do. You know, the degree, very nice, but nobody's gonna hire you because you have a degree in this area. They're gonna say, what can you do? And they're gonna look at the project and say, that looks good. Have you done something for a client? And you can say, I was your client. Yeah, I worked for a lady called da, 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 and she wanted this and I created it. Okay. So we have covered Classic Tweens. We have it together. I'm saving again the file. And now we're going to go for MotionTweens. Notice that I'm explaining in the side file. I'm not explaining with, we'll take a look later at the sample file that I'm giving you all. But I'm doing it here to do it little by little. So we're going to turn the visibility off of all those lovely Classic Tweens. We're going to create a new one. We're going to call it Motion. And we're gonna, doesn't want spaces on the layers. It's because right now it's preparing files to be exported in JavaScript, and the JavaScript is not gonna take a name of a thing that has space. So it's okay, put the underscore, good. And I'm gonna drag something. Maybe I should drag my other, I didn't give it a name. So when you don't give a name to a symbol, it's called symbol 1. And that makes your instructor incredibly mad that you have symbols that haven't been named. So if you forget and at the moment, in the heat of the moment, you don't give a name, remember that you can double click. And we're going to say, this is our ellipse. Double click. Ellipse. I hope you write it like that. I'm not positive. It might be with 2 L's. It looks weird. It looks to me like if I was saying calypso. Would be like that? I don't know. Okay, so I'm dragging my element from my library to my stage, and because I had that layer selected, it goes there. Well, also it wouldn't go to the other ones because they were turned off. So it's a good idea when you're dragging elements, make sure that you're in the right layer. So here I have my element that is a symbol, and I know that it's a symbol. We're not seeing it because my window is here. But when I select it, it says, hey, your object is a graphic symbol and it's an instance of your weirdly spelled ellipse. And it is even giving you what is the width and the height and what is the position. In X, width and height, in X and Y. So if I put it right there, I don't know, can I see the maximum? So if I put this guy there, we'll go to 0. Oh no, mira, in 1. Chunk. And I could come here and say, you know what? Place this guy in 0. 0, 0. That's the 0, 0 of my stage, okay? Or I can say, I want this guy to be in 1, not in 0, 0, 0, in 100. Copy, paste. Now that guy is in 100, 100. Okay, so remember that in vector-based graphics, this is the 0, 0, and your position, here's your position in X, and here's your position in Y. And one day it's gonna become important, so you better pay attention. Okay, I'm gonna put this back in the upper part. So here I have my element, and when I do a motion tween, instead of saying, this is a peculiar thing that it made me nuts for months when I first saw a motion tween. Instead of having an in and an out, your first keyframe is a true keyframe where it knows, okay, what am I putting here? What's going to be the object? So it's one of those little circle keyframes. But the rest of your keyframes are not going to look like circles. They're going to look like little diamonds. And those are not truly Adobe Anime keyframes. They're a little bit like After Effects keyframes. Now you might say, and what do I care? You know, it's a keyframe. Yes. But at a certain point, in certain nuances, it's going to be important. What is your first keyframe? That is the circle. And where are your other keyframes? There are diamonds. So before I set keyframes, I'm going to have to right click here and straight ahead say, I want a motion tween. And then your complete layer, notice that the icon of the layer has changed. Your complete layer has become a motion tween layer. And now instead of going to an end and saying what you want, all you have to do is position yourself where you want to change. Let's imagine that I want to change in frame 10 and move the element in frame 10. And I see my little midget thing. You see it? My little diamond thing. And something has showed up. That is the path, the motion path. So it's telling me how that motion is happening. Now I'm going to go to frame, I don't know, 25. I'm going to say by 25, we're going to be here. Okay. Now I'm going to 35, and by 35, I'm going to be here. And by the time I reach, let me reach, I think that 45. I'm going to give frames. Frames. And by the time I'm in this time, I'm going to this guy. It would be lovely if I could see. No, I'm not moving. I'm in the same frame, so I can keep on moving and it's just changing the registration. I'm gonna put it like it looks like it's doing, yeah. So this guy is doing this motion. Okay. Now, when I'm not selecting it, I'm not gonna see that thing anymore. That is not gonna be in the final one. That is something for you, so you can see the motion path. So for a second, let's go back to our other classic tween. And we notice that one limitation of a classic tween is that if one keyframe is here and one is here, it's going to go in a straight line. It's always going to move in a straight line. There's no such a thing as curve movement in classic tween. I mean, yes, you can do it. We're going to do it next week. It requires a special setup of working with a guide and doing certain things. But by default, the classic tween is very easy to put together, but it moves in a straight line. Now, the motion tween, no, I don't want to see that one. I want to see this one. The motion tween, let me select so I can see my path, has this path. And although you don't have to work with curved paths on this assignment, I want you to know for if you need it, to see, what is the advantage of working with this that is so strangely different from the other one. And the advantage is that if I take my black arrow and I go to this, notice that it acts like if this was a drawing. This is not a drawing. This is a helping visual. So if I do this, I'm creating curves. So by going to this, I could be modifying the path. The path is what it's going to be doing. This looks a little bit weird. Put less curve. Less curve there. Put the curve a little bit more here to work, so it works more like an ellipse. And here I also have like a little thing that doesn't work. Let me come here and put the curve there. Yes, now it looks like it could go through. Now notice what is happening. Because I'm setting keyframes, or in what place do I want to be this guy? And I said, in this many frames, it goes only here. And then from here to here, there is way more distance, is doing it in this. So now here, do you see how they're going way closer? And now here there is a little spaced out and then a little bit closer. So the position of those things, this is each one of the frames. Let me come here and go frame by frame. Blink, 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 blink. So we're marking is where the center would be in each one. Can I collect? Yes, there you have it. And then to the next, to the next, to the next. Do you realize what those little points stand for? So it's showing you in what position is that element on each one of the frames. And then notice that when it's only a little frame, I mean, they're a little bit darker, the ones that are real key frames. The other ones are only in betweens. So if I make this play, my guy's working around. And do you see that it's not always exactly at the same speed? It's kind of modifying a little bit. So you can intuitively create changes of speed by just working with those keyframes. So again, I'm gonna do another one so you remember. I'm gonna save. I'm hearing this thing already. It's getting warm. It's thinking too much. Ugh. So I'm gonna set this one also to be invisible. We're gonna create another layer and we're gonna create another copy of my guy that is gonna come here. I'm gonna be rotating it. I want it to be like that. And we're gonna be giving it a little bit of color. So here is color effects. Let's change the appearance. Let's make it, what if I make it only bright? A little bit too far. Brighter like that, okay? And what I have is only a keyframe. If I made another keyframe later, I could make a classic tween, but instead of that, I'm gonna make another motion tween. Motion tween 2. So I differentiate with the other layer. So I'm gonna right click on the first layer and say, I want a motion tween layer. Remember, motion tween layer, the whole layer becomes a different color. And that means that I cannot really create another keyframe. Some people do it. If you're smart, let me take out this, or Command C. Yeah, I don't have it. And if I am smart and say, okay, I want this guy here, but by this point, in 35, I want another keyframe. So I'm gonna make another keyframe. And by the time I get there, this guy is gonna be, you see, my align is not coming out. I don't understand this snapping thing. It's gonna be there. So I already have a different keyframe. Let me save that. And now let me go back to my first and make a motion tween. And you see the motion tween happens until you get another keyframe. But if you don't do it in advance, once you have a motion tween, you cannot create again an Adobe Animate keyframe. So ideally, you would use a motion tween layer only for moving that element. But I've seen people trying to compress by doing this trick. They create a keyframe before. If this is too messy for your head, just don't do it. You do this type of motion tween. So now I have this one. I have a motion tween. So I can say, hey, by the time I here, I want this thing to be up here. By the time I here, I want this thing to be down here. And by the time that I reach here, I would like to be almost there. So let me put the, oh, darn it. Let me put it almost there, okay? Now, something that you could do, once you have the keyframe, let me select the keyframe. So keyframe, keyframe, keyframe. Oh, that's it. Please, keyframe. Oh, I was thinking that I could move it. And I could move it, but I have to open a box of Pandora, another tool that I don't want to show today. So instead of that, because I have so much space, no, I can come here and say, hey, This one is going to be more there. So it's quicker, it's closer. And then it will be there at the end. And maybe by then it can do something else. Okay, it worked out. So you see what I did? I put the first keyframe, I did the animation that I want, and then I did my last of my keyframes almost in the position of the next keyframe. It looks a little weird. I know I did it. I selected only the keyframe. Yes, so you can drag it. But you know, you have to be in that moment where the program is receptive. Let's save. So you can actually grab that little diamond and move it a little bit on the stage. That is good. Now, do I want this going zigzagging? Alejandra. Zigzagging up and down? Maybe that's what I want. Or do I want these to be a curve? If I want these to be a curve, maybe I want the first one to be a curve. I just go with my black arrow. Create, like that. And then I'm gonna go to this one and also create. Now, you are the person responsible for creating there a nice path. Now, since I'm dyslexic, and I know that some of my students have dyslexic tendencies, although they don't know about, notice that this is not a speed curve. This is a geographical curve. It's a choreography curve. So what it's telling is how it's moving around the stage. This is not how it's moving across time, okay? So let's differentiate space and time. Now my computer is saying that it wants juice. It's getting thirsty. Let's put a little bit of thing here. Moving across the kitchen. Okay, so let's look at this one. Let's make it play. Okay, we like that. Now, if I wanted to apply an ease, let's see if I still have, I'm gonna take the library out. It's bothering me too much. Library, out. We're gonna leave it here. We know that we have our two symbols, but right now we're not really doing anything. I can also double click. Why are you not doing it? Yes, and it becomes only a line, and then it bothers you way less. So I'm gonna select my motion tween, and here I have a basic tween. Now, for motion tween, we're gonna have a monster for editing. It's the motion editor. It's the one that I don't wanna open to not scare you because it feels a little bit like, oh my gosh, cybernetic, very cyber. But I do have my tweening. And look, if I put my tweening like that, do you see how the points change? Because I'm changing the speed, so I'm changing the position of the symbol in each one of the frames. Let me repeat again. With the guy selected, let me go to the value. So obviously I selected an ease out. It's going very slow at the end. Now, I know that by looking at the position, not at the curve. What I'm looking to detect that is, I'm looking at the interval, the space in between one dot and the next. This is not a speed curve. And now let it play. Let it play. Oh yeah, really smooth. Okay. Now, what if I want also to change the alpha? Not a good idea because then I have a keyframe here. No, but I could do it. Let me place myself at that point where I have that keyframe and select my little guy and say, this guy is gonna be darker by there, -32 dark. And then I don't wanna jump, here's my other keyframe. So since it's a symbol, I can say, hey, you're also gonna be -40 something. Go back. -32. Let me do my numbers. -32. Pink. And now I have my transition also with changing color. Okay? And look how nice it looks. Now, this keyframe has nothing to do with the animation. This is not an in-between. This keyframe is there because I made a keyframe at the very beginning, because maybe now I want to do something different. Okay? Something like, I don't know. Should I do a little Classic Tween. Hope this doesn't mess you up, guys. So I select this and I do, let me make Alejandra. A ver. Oh, it's only this. Okay, so now I have a keyframe that could be my in keyframe and another keyframe that maybe I want to say, yeah, you're gonna come here. And let me put this here, down, and you're gonna squash a little bit. So I have an in, I have an out, and I can go here, right click and say, give me. You don't want to give me a classic tween? Why? Oh, it doesn't want. Because it knows it's a motion tween. I've seen it done. Okay, maybe I want shape, I want frame by frame animation. So I want this guy. I want this guy here. Function F7, that is empty. Ching. This better be very close because I want tatan very quickly. No, closer, closer. I'm just dragging. Move. There. Okay, so I have this one. I'm gonna put onion skin to have an idea of what I'm doing. It's showing me all the onion skin on Earth. Let me make the onion skin smaller. And I have this one that is here. This one that is going a little bit here. This one that is going more in the middle. I mean, what is going down? It's not. Venga, let's make it something for some reason it's also getting this one. Now I need more time. So I'm gonna place myself here and say F5, whole function, F5, F5, F5. I want more time because this thing is okay. Here, too much. Chum, 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 para arriba. Chum, chum. Now I can put on the scale. And I can say on the next one, function of 6. Now is when we're gonna do a big path movement. Can I see the previous ones? Not bad. And then in the next one, that's a lot of moving. So let's have one here in between. Ding. Tiny, 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 smaller. We want a little bit of overlapping. So this is how we're doing. This is slowing down here. That doesn't look very good. So let me go to this one. You see, I'm looking at the progression. I have a little bit, then I have way more. Then this one should be at least the same. Like that. No. Like that. Then I have this one, and then I have those weird two last ones. Now I would like here to have one more frame. Obviously, Alejandra is not used to work on a laptop. One more frame. Yes. So I'm letting you see me do a little bit of frame by frame because it doesn't matter that we do frame by frame in week 3. We're still learning new techniques. Out of this, let's cross our fingers and let's see how this works. Nice. Now, this thing that I have of elements, you know, like different layers ending at different points, that's not good. We don't want that. So we're gonna select everybody. I wonder if it's gonna let me add frames when it's invisible. But I select everybody and I say, give me an F5 for everybody. Yes, now I have all my layers having the same length. Now you might say, well, Alejandra, what if I don't wanna see this guy anymore that was here? You know, oh my gosh, going crazy. I don't wanna see this one anymore. Okay, then come here, make a keyframe and delete it. So when you don't want more duration, you make an empty keyframe and that guy disappears. But what I don't want you to leave is leave it with shorter layers because there's a danger. Something happens at the end and suddenly you add layers and then go figure where that guy should have disappeared. That's why you want to be doing that little by little as you keep on going with the story. Okay, so here we have our motion tween and we went crazy and created a frame by frame also in the same layer because we want it to be a pain. Now, since I'm adding things that are a little bit more itchy, let me try do something. What happens if I say, you know what, this guy should have moved a little more? And now I have that animation there. I can create another layer that should have been on top of everything there. And then I can select all my animation. And if God is good, I can move it out of there. Yes. So you can select animation and do 1, 2, 3, boom, and move it to another layer. Now, it's a dangerous thing because you can screw up the animation that you had in the other layer. So first you have to be looking at it. You know, I have an empty layer. This is going good. I'm going to do it. And look, since I move it from one place to the other, it named the new layer the same thing. So I need to come here and say, no, this is going to be frame by frame. Frame by frame. So as you see, I'm giving you a little bit more complexity. And then we have a problem. This guy was here and it keeps on being there. And now the other one, now I've got a little bit of a problem. So if I don't want this, what I might have to do is I might come to that next layer where this guy is here. And I might make it, select my guy. And I say, by the time you come here, no, brightness, no. By the time you're here, you're completely transparent. And then we don't have that problem. It's still not very good because I have an element that is there present. But I mean, making a keyframe that cancels this out. Let me try something. If you do that, you see what happened? It scaled down all the animation. That's not what we want. Now I know that there's a way that I can make it shorter without changing the duration. It's not that one. All right. Holding shift. That's well, shift. So if you hold shift, you make that one, you know, we're not very happy with this, but this allows me to come here, make a keyframe, and now, oh, it makes a keyframe on MotionTween. In this case, we're gonna have to leave it like that. So if I knew that I wanted to stop, I should have made my famous keyframe at the very beginning. It was not a very smart thing that I moved them all. I should have left one. Copy, paste in place. Oh, yes, it's a different keyframe. Yes, yes, yes. And now F5, F5 holding the function. Okay, I know that I've gone a little bit too complex, but you know, if this is too complex, don't look at it. You just do your normal classic tween, your normal MotionTween, your normal ease, and you don't look at those complexities. Those are like filigree, petit pois work with Adobe Anime. And why can I figure out things in the fly? Because I've been working for so long with this program that I can guess how are things created. So to me, the fact that you make a MotionTween layer and it has to be MotionTween until the end of time, that bothers me. And then I try to find ways in which I can stop that MotionTween from happening. And you see that it has to be, you have a keyframe there from the very beginning. Did you see how I managed to come back? I'm even impressed. I'm glad I did a recording. So what I did is I moved back the animation by holding shift without changing the time and move back the animation. So there was nothing else, there was no time. And then I tricked the program by taking a keyframe from other place and putting the keyframe there. And then that's it. I don't have any more MotionTween and I can delete the element and then, you know, I have my animation there and at a certain point it disappears. Okay. So I don't want to explain more than this, but I want to have, do I have survivors? Are you guys there? Do you want to ask me something? Mira, Vadim is there already. Does somebody want to ask me something or just to tell me that they're okay? So I feel that there's somebody here. I know that John is not here anymore because he went to he's also the tutor for the 3D class. Anybody that wants to make a comment, or we're good, guys?
I have a comment for after the recording.
Okay, so then before we end the recording, I just want to show the sample file. And it's a new sample file I have updated. So you might have seen that in the sample files when I have text, you cannot see the freaking text. And that's it because when I created the sample file, the interface was light. So then, yeah, they changed the interface and now you cannot read the text. So I've tried to make the text a little bit bigger and a little bit more outstanding so you can see it. This is a new file. And here I have a symbol. And this is in fact a symbol. Let me put this back. Where are you, library? Library is here. I want you to see. So this is a, I'm going to snap it down so I can move a little bit. No? Okay. Now you went too far, huh? Okay, so we have this element that is object that is called Square School. Very cool. And here's Square School. And a Square School, I'm going to go inside. And a Square School is made of this guy that is called Square 2, this guy that is called also Square 2, is another copy, and this guy that is called Square 1. So I actually have a symbol that is made of other symbols, and you can do that. You can say, hey, I need this element and this element, and sometimes they're going to be doing something separate. Sometimes I want them all moving at the same time. How do I do it? I put them all in the same symbol. So I wanted you to be aware that once we're living in the world of symbols, you can have a symbol that is made of other symbols. So here I have a Square 1, here I have a Square 2, and here I have a Square School that is made of the 3 guys, okay? And it's there. Something else that I want to say very quickly. If you double click from the library, you go to an empty space where you can only see the elements. Let me come back to the main timeline. If I double click on stage, I don't have anything underneath. Do I have anything, something here underneath? Just the text. Put something underneath. To this gigantic square and put this thing, bothering thing underneath. So let me come back here. And if I double click on my symbol from the main stage, beep, beep, bing, I'm seeing the elements of my symbol, but in washed out, I can still see what is out on stage. This is a good trick because sometimes you make a symbol and say, no, this shouldn't work like that. This should work in a different way because it has to be on top of something, or because, you know, it has to be higher, taller, it has to be a different color, it has to, you know, you have to do a variation to the symbol and you need reference to the stage. So if you double click on the element from the stage, I'm inside, but I'm still seeing. Now notice, the symbol on stage was tinted in dark blue. So when I double click, I see it natural, the way it is. But when I come back out, this element has a tint in blue. So I see it tinted. But when I double click and I go to the library element is not tinted. Remember that tinting is something that's like dipping in color inks, something that happens outside, but it's not altering the essence of the guy outside. I love it that we're doing philosophy. So let's take out that layer that I put that is just making things. So here I have my element. Here I have my element tinted. So when I select this guy, it's still who it is, but in color, I would see that I have a tint that is 100%. And then on here, we're gonna begin moving. And this is a motion tween. So the only thing that I was doing, let me see what I did. No, I have to put the tween. Into path. I have to take the library again. Okay, so I'm doing clockwise 1 revolution. That's why it's doing all that stuff over there. Now, do you see what happened there? I wonder, why do I have a keyframe there? Why did I put it? Another example of something that is happening, and what I'm doing in that one, let me go to that one and select it, is that, where are you circle? Oh, the axis of rotation is there. So when I rotate, Really? No, that is not. Let me make it small. You don't see it a lot, but I really need to see what's happening with the axis of rotation. So where are you, axis of rotation? Really, it looks to me like the axis of rotation is somewhere in the woods. You know, I thought it was outside. Right? You know, you can let it like that for now. Let me zoom in and keep on going. What other things we have? So I'm showing all the possible things. Probably this one is with keyframes. So I have this one, I have this one that is over there where it's getting bigger. This one that is already in place. So you can create keyframes in between, remember, by just positioning yourself somewhere else. So I'm here and I say, oh, now I want lower. And all I have to do is have my selection tool and say, I said lower by the time we're here, and maybe also smaller. PD on top. I would love to grab from the other side. Share. Maybe I went too far with the smallest. A ver. No. The guy. Okay. So let's see. Oh, I love it. Okay. So those are my motion tweens. Now here come my classic tweens. Oh, what's this? Cute. Looks like some kind of catamaran. Don't you love it? I did this 3 days ago and I don't even remember it. That's the beauty. I'm Dory. Ooh. So how did I do this? So I have my symbol that is here. Let me show you the library so you see that it's there. Flame object. Here it is. Flame object. And I have it in that position there. And here, I have it here, and I have skewed it. How do I skew? I come here, and instead of showing the default, I say rotate and skew. And if you go here, you can skew. So then it's rotating all those properties and doing this thing that looks like it's going so fast. Wow. It's like a skier, you know, like they go opposite to the direction of the movement so they can work better. Now, what happens in this one? I have the same one. Oh, and it's happening shorter. I think I'm working with eases already. So this one, let's put myself on the other side, always in the middle. This one, I have no ease, and it's longer. This one, I have a little bit of ease. And how did it do it? Why didn't I have? Okay, cancel. So maybe I click on this one. Yes. So I'm after all explaining. Okay. Yes. Basic ease modes. And this one, what is catching my attention is that because I already selected something, I'm not seeing my famous slider. So let me try again. Let me say that I don't want that one. I want no ease, and double click. And where's my famous thing for going from one side to the other that I saw it before? Oh, okay, well, let's do it this way. Effect, classic ease. I can do it the same here. I can say, you know, I want a little bit. Punk, and it shows me the amount. Nice, if I do more, shows me what it be. It will be with complete intensity. Now that's it. Do I have more? No, that's it. Okay, so this is the sample file for you. Good thing that I reviewed it because there were things that were a little bit like, So what you have in this sample file, you have symbols, you have Tintin symbols, you have a motion tween in different ways, different crazy ways, and then you have a classic tween. And classic tween applying different types of eases. Okay? Yes. So I think that that's all for today. We have my little working, where's mine? My little working file, we did different things. If you notice, I didn't talk at all about the motion path, but it's not a bad idea. If you don't want to touch the motion path and you don't mind moving on a straight line, like the classic tween does, the motion path, it doesn't belong to this week. So I've just shown it for if you wanted to do something and you thought that it was interesting that had a curved path, but you don't have to work with that this week. Okay, and the crazy thing of moving whole animations from one layer to the other, you don't have to do that either. So you take whatever you can take. You go to the assignment, you look at the rubric, and you see what are the things that are mandatory. You have to have shape tweens, you have to have motion tweens, you're working with symbols, you have basic eases. That and a story, those are your basic requirements. Okay, so 1101, not that. There's some, I want it very quickly. I know that people want to ask questions later, but very quickly, I wanted to show some of the very good that is not one I wanted to show. This one I wanted to show. Yes, very interesting piece. And I wanted to show it to you as an example of, it's not, I mean, the shape tweens work very good, but this piece is very good because of the concept. This is a portfolio piece. This is something that you can show to demonstrate your creativity. So let's look at it. I think so. I'm not in anime. Why? Yes, I was expecting. You are not sadness. Isn't that nice? So what I like is the tweens are being used, and they're being used to morph the word and to morph the shape. But this is not only a technical assignment, there's a concept behind that is also important. Let you watch it for a little bit. Now, that lovely thing of depressed guy and happy guy or energetic guy, that is very good. So congratulations, Samuel, that's a really good piece. And those of you that are doing very good piece, you will know that when something is outstanding, I tend to give 1, 2, 3 points of extra credit. Just, you know, that person was working for a long time and put together something that is more complex than just something technical or something that, you know, little story that works. That has a little bit more thought, so I give him an extra. I think that I also like, yes, I like Megan a lot. Because you can tell that she was not just trying to get out of the problem, she was trying to make a piece. There you have this one. I like a lot the text. You see that text with that texture? And I'm impressed with how well that text is actually shape tweening. And you have the famous shape tween where you're moving the gradient. There is another one that was very good, but I don't know. Do I have it here? No. Okay. Well, yes, here it is. Mira, it was left on the other side. This is also very interesting. Look. Isn't that a nice loop? I love that. Now, to make that perfect for a real portfolio piece, it would be nice to have sound. We're not working with sound, but you know, one of those days, if you guys tell me, hey, I want to work with sound, sound is going to be explained later, probably on week 9. A little bit of easing in that one would have been amazing, that the tube, we begin fast and then at revés, we begin slow, the fish, and then that thing that's wonk, you know, that feeling of like, oh, you've reached to the top. Okay, so those are, to me, the best. I don't want to say the best because maybe I forgot one that was really good, but you know, from what I graded yesterday, the ones that at the very end caught my mind. Not saying that the rest is bad. In general, the whole class is doing very good. It looks like, you know, you're taking the time to create pieces. Some more investment in effort than others. And I think that you're beginning to understand why those assignments are important, and you're going to try push them to create something that it can demonstrate your potential, you know? you might not know a lot of the program already, but we can tell when somebody is trying to push their whole potential or when they're just covering the basics. Now, I'm not saying that everybody needs to be making spectacular pieces, because learning for some people is more difficult than for others. So they're still catching up, you know, and getting momentum. But at a certain point in the class, everybody should be able to create at least 2 portfolio pieces, at least, out of what you're doing in this class. Okay? So I know that I have a comment for later on of recording. Do I have somebody that wants to ask something still being recorded for the whole class? No? Okay, then let's stop the recording. If I have a little bit smaller movie, it's better for me because it takes less to compress and to upload. That is all an insane project. Now, something before I turn off, because it went to my mind. Once we begin working with sound, be very careful, guys, because if you work with sound that is copyrighted, you know, that is part of a song or something that is copyrighted. In the other class, in the 2D animation class, I was showing an assignment that had a song that is copyrighted. And when I put it up in YouTube, YouTube blocked my lecture. Said this cannot be in YouTube because there's copyright sound. And it took me 7 to 8 hours to figure out what was the problem, to redo the 1.5-hour movie and eliminate that sound working in After Effects, re-render the movie, and then upload it. So I've learned my lesson. Be very careful if you're working with copyright sound. We'll talk about it. I will show you places where you can find sounds that don't have copyright. But working with a song that iTunes would ask you to pay, that's a problem, because they have algorithm that recognizes the songs when I'm putting it up. And I mean, that's only if I'm trying to show your song, your piece. But you have to take into account that if you ever want to put, you know, work up in YouTube and you're working a song that is copyright, they're gonna block you and you're gonna be very sad. So careful with the sound. Okay, so that's it for the recording for today, guys. Happy practicing. Let's see what you can come up with week 5. I would love that they're as good as the week 4 came out like. And have fun and have a good week. Bye.